Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for Tower of God Chapter 413 or Season 2 Episode 333. So either way, let's talk about this one. So I feel like for the summary part of this, it's going to be pretty simple. The events and actions of the chapter were pretty straightforward, but there's a lot of good information from the blog, and my general thoughts are that it was a really, really good chapter. As it has been every week. I don't want to get into that like every single week, just having to go through the same speech of, damn, Tower of God's been very, very good lately. But yeah, damn, it has been very good lately. And especially this one, it felt like, I don't know, maybe it's just because it was also Christmas, but it felt like CU was trying to go all out and give us something special. But then again, in the blog you mentioned that he feels like Christmas is special to Tower of God as a series because it's the 25th bomb. But yeah, I don't know. I really, really liked this one, and it felt like a special big chapter. Especially because the art was just so good, and I feel like a lot of the panels and events here are things that are going to be those big events that we could come back to months later and be like, oh yeah, that was really cool when that happened. So it felt important, and the art was just so good, especially a few particular panels like the last panel they had, or the one with Kallavan saying you're too weak was one I saw people bringing up. It's really, really good. But either way, let's start from the beginning, though, and go through it summary-wise, talking about it scene by scene before we get to the blog stuff. So starting at the beginning, everyone's just reacting to Kallavan's arrival. Of course, I liked all that. We got to see the faces of the rankers that were with Bomb, like we did last week, that little reaction shot again. But more importantly, what they spent more time on was showing the reactions of people that were sort of on Kallavan's side. Like we got to see Elpathian in particular. But I loved the one reaction that Kun Royale Elliot had of, why is everybody doing all this right in my front yard? I loved that one. So one thing that I think is good is Kallavan actually recognizes Andrasi when she jumps into Bong Bong Bomb out of there. I think that's good because I was bringing up multiple times before with both Andrasi and with Yuri being one of the regular prisoners they had out there. Yuri was a celebrity from the Ha family. She was well established as a celebrity from the Ha family that basically everyone knew about, even rankers. And then somehow they're like, they take they take Irure, and Drac takes her in particular, but none of them recognize Yuri, who's supposed to be a celebrity. None of them. Not only do they not give her special treatment, which would be reasonable given what the supposed crimes are, but they didn't even, say anything. They didn't even make any note that they recognized her. And they've done the same kind of with Andrasi, who again had her face plastered all over all kinds of TV shows and billboards and products and stuff way back on the 30th floor. So it feels like even rankers would probably have an idea of who she is, and yet nobody ever seems to recognize her. So I thought it was really, really good that Kallavan actually recognized Andrasi. I was like, that makes sense. That finally kind of follows. That makes sense. So I'm glad that something that makes sense finally happened. But Kallavan just basically easily knocks the two of them around where he wants them with explosions at a distance. That bomber skill that's really, really cool. And I feel like because Bomb got the ability, I mentioned it in the live reaction, because he got the ability to control Shinsu at a distance when he got the red Thrissa, I think it'd be cool if he could learn to do that bomber technique since he was hit by it from Kallavan. So I could totally see Bomb doing that in the future because he learned it from him. So Kallavan goes on his little speech of saying how he regrets killing Jinsung, but he believes that he has done it. He was at least almost dead when he left, but because we didn't see a body, I'll talk about it at the end. Because we didn't see a body, though, I'm presuming Jinsung's probably alive. But either way, we get a flashback of what happened. Well, sort of. We get a flashback of what happened until he left, but Jinsung froze Kallavan and Masheni in place using reverse flow control, which is incredible that he was dying and yet was able to freeze two high rankers. But Nyono teleported Kallavan away right before the El Rabina fired. So Kallavan, though, what's important to note here is that he yelled. He was like, "Teleport me out of here!" He was like freaking out right there at the end, and that's the only time we've seen Kallavan lose his cool. He's been very calm and collected, except for that one moment. So that's kind of showing us that he was actually afraid of dying there. But he he easily shrugs off all the attacks that Bomb is throwing at him. He does his big endless sky with the Black March. He's attacking with a bunch of needles that just break as soon as they hit Kallavan. He tries to use that flare wave explosion to the chest, and again, just completely shrugs it off, does nothing at all, takes no damage. And then we actually get to see a really cool scene. Cheon-hee, who we've seen is having these issues with Yuri, actually tries to hold Yuri back so that she isn't outed as a traitor. Now, partially, this is just because Yuri is a member of the Ha family, and she doesn't want the Ha family being disgraced, but in the end, she's doing something to benefit Yuri, which I think is really cool. And this is a big, big moment for Yuri as a character, because she goes on with her speech of how she accepted this power. Well, not that the princesses have a ton of choice, but she got this huge position, and she got all this power, but it comes with a curse. It comes with so many restrictions. So she's always wondered, why do I have this power? Why do I have this position? And she's finally found her way, that she's found people that can change the world, and she wants to change the world. And once the world is changed, then she'll be a princess that Cheon-hee can be proud of. So I love that. That's a huge moment for her character, saying that she doesn't care if people think of her as a traitor. She thinks the world needs to change, and once the world is changed, people can be proud of her. So I think that's such a huge moment for her character, and it's great. For a character we've known since the beginning of the series, it was a huge moment. So Yuri comes in, saves Bomb and Andrasi, but Bomb refuses to leave right now. We get a flashback of him leaving his training with Jinsung, which I thought was really, really beautiful, where Jinsung is basically saying, I didn't train, like, he kind of says, in not so many words, that he didn't train him to be an FUG slayer or anything. He trained him to be happy. Whether he decides to be an FUG slayer or whatever he decides to do, if he decides to run and never come back, he trained him so that he could be happy. So I loved that. Bomb is very much pissed off and starts activating both thorns at the end. Even with both thorns, we'll see what he can or can't do. I get the feeling that somebody like Yuri or Evan's gonna be like, no, Bomb, bad, and just get him out of there. But at least for right now, he's activating both thorns, and we'll see where it leads. So now we have some blog info that I thought was really, really good. So CU mentions in the blog that I don't know how these terms have been translated or how they'll be translated in the future, but CU was saying that he has been using the terms warp and teleport interchangeably. Neither one of them specifically means anything different to him so far. He was just using both of them in whatever sentence he wanted to, but he said from now on, in order to help distinguish it, he's going to use the term warp for long distance teleporting and the term teleport for short distance travel. So I think that that's really good that they're making a distinction, but the only thing is with the English translation, I don't know if they'll keep that distinction there. I doubt they will. I doubt they've really been paying attention to there being a distinction. I mean, I'm sure they've noticed that they're using two separate words, but again, I feel like they're probably like, he's just using it interchangeably. And so in the future, they'll probably just use the two terms interchangeably. But he says that the point in all that, and the reason he's saying that, is because somebody couldn't warp in the situation that they were in, like Kallavan did, unless they were as badass and basically unkillable as Kallavan is. He also brings up that Jinsung is more skilled and the better martial artist, but Kallavan is stronger and younger, so if they would have been able to fight to the finish, who knows how it would have ended up, but Kallavan ended up lucky with Machete jumping in. So again, he's kind of said the same thing before. He's basically said before that Kallavan's stronger but Jinsung's more skilled, and now after the fight said kind of the same thing. And the last important thing from the blog is that CU says that this is Bomb's first time trying to kill someone, which is again, showing the motivation of the character, which I think is really important to talk about. So yeah, Bomb is actually trying to kill Kallavan. Of course, he won't nearly be able to. He probably won't be able to do anything at all. At least for now. Because I think that "you're too weak" moment's really important, because it's going to come around where eventually Bomb's going to make it to the top of the tower, and one of his final bosses is going to be Kallavan. He was his master's sworn enemy, as he said. So because of that, it's going to be one of those situations where he's going to be one of the final bosses for Bomb. He's, like I was saying before, he might be the last person that Bomb has to get through to get to Zahard once he gets to the 134th floor or whatever. So as for the chapter, I loved it. I think it's a really, really big chapter for Yuri. I think that Kallavan is an absolute badass. I love the character so much. I say it all the time. I think that it deals with the consistent problem that Tower of Gods had all throughout Helltrain, which is something that most people have been saying is detracted from the story to them for a bit, which is too many power-ups. I do think there are too many power-ups, and I think that's the one thing that detracts from the chapter a little bit, because we're juggling, okay, Bomb has these thorns, Bomb has this Black March form, he has this, he has that, and I think there are too many power-ups going on, and that's kind of something that takes away from the impact of some of the story a bit. So that would probably be the only negative. And my thoughts for what happened to Jinsung, since we didn't really get to see it, if we didn't really get to see him die, I'm doubting he died at all. The only way that I can see him dying here is if when we see Masheni next, Masheni has a flashback where we see him die. Because if we don't have that, I'm assuming he isn't dead, and my guess would be that he and Masheni probably survived El Labina, and I would say that I think Masheni has captured him alive. I think it's worth a lot to capture him alive, and because they didn't show him dead, I'm assuming he's not dead, even though I think him dying would have been good for the story at this point. Him staying alive works too if he's captured by Masheni. Because this builds up Masheni as a more important character and a bigger rival for Yuri. Like we see Yuri becoming a traitor to the Zahard army, her standing up to Kallavan, her basically defeating Chonhi. She's doing these big things to build her up. So we'll also have Masheni betraying and capturing Jinsung to build her up, because we have kind of this rival story line going on between the two of them. So I think that could kind of work if he isn't dead, and I think there's a pretty good chance he isn't dead. But the chances of him both being not dead and escaping, they're kind of, I don't know. Him being not dead, there's a chance. There's a good chance, I think. But him being not dead and escaping, I don't think he's that lucky. So, yeah, Masheni's probably captured him, is my guess at least. But for the chapter as a score, I'd give it 9.5, I don't know, 9.5 princesses you can be proud of, proper princesses out of 10. I really, really liked it. I thought it was incredible. The art was really, really good, and I think there were a few big moments here. But I do think maybe having so many power-ups detracts a little bit from the story. Just on a general chapter-to-chapter basis. But yeah, other than that, it was a pretty perfect chapter. It was very, very solid. So yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this week's chapter, of my thoughts on it and all that. Subscribe for more. Tower of God, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel, or talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us there, then just ask and I can give you a link. That's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.